So the Shadow Monitoring Enthusiast User Group for the month of May. This month we're virtual again, but next month we may actually be meeting in person. We possibly have a sponsor for that month. And this month we'll be talking about Azure Monitor. We'll be looking at it from all perspectives of what we can do with it, what we can't do with it, cost, how to integrate it with different systems and whatnot. So again, our user group, Chicago Monitoring Enthusiast User Group, we're just a user group about talking about monitoring applications, infrastructures, weather, whatever. In terms of technologies, we are technology agnostic, so we look at Grafana, InfluxDB, MongoDB, Elasticsearch, Azure Monitor, Azure SQL, anything that we can use to capture data, flat files, access, anything that we can use to capture data and produce, useful monitoring tools for yourself or your business. As usual, we're always looking for speakers. Last month, I spoke at DevOps Days Birmingham and met some folks down there who would possibly be interested in speaking to our group virtually. So maybe in the winter months, we may bring them in virtually to present. Get use cases around using Elasticsearch, Kibana, Logstash. So the out clusters and technologies around that for monitoring around their business. One of them is an up and coming e-commerce platform for real estate, and they're using Elasticsearch to ingest a little bit over a terabyte of data a day. And myself, I'm Richard Lewis. I'm the organizer of this user group now, I guess. I'm not really sure what you call it. I like community organizer. It sounds really good. And I've been doing DevOps for the last 10 years. Prior to, someone jumped in late there, so I had to mute them. So for the last 20 years, I've been doing, DevOps now, and I do DevOps consulting. For the last 20 years, I've been in the software and operations side of IT. Started out doing infrastructure, design development, network configurations, moved into software development, and I'm a diehard Sox fan. My company, 3Cloud, we are just a pure Azure consulting firm. We only focus on Azure. We have about 400 people, a little bit over 15 years experience per person in technologies. And we have about 500 clients around the country. We mainly focus on the US, but we do have some companies that are international. And we mainly focus on certain areas like helping clients come up with recommendations for their long-term vision around Azure, helping them with infrastructure migrations or infrastructure scale-ups or scale-outs, automation, DevOps improvements, DevSecOps things. We do full service management, app development, everything like that. Anything you can think of on Azure, we do it. Everything but Azure Space. And that's just because we don't have any clients yet. So today we're going to be talking about Azure Monitor. And I plan on diving straight into it and going into what it is, cost, application insights, and the types of data you can get with it. Looking at Kubernetes, visualizing the data that you get from Azure Monitor, using third-party tools or your first-party tools, and then anything else in between. If you have any questions at all, feel free to chime in and let me know, and I'll dive in deeper. I don't have a lot of slides. I have about maybe 20 slides. And I probably won't show you them all because I plan on showing you a lot of the technologies directly from the Azure portal or within the browser. But I do want to tell you what Azure Monitor is. If you don't know what it is, it's a service that's a collection of analysis tools that's built on the Azure platform. I like to think of it as a ship with a lot of different compartments. Azure Monitor really is it's a brand more of anything. And as we talk about everything, you'll realize that, hey, these are actually just a bunch of things that all just are on Azure Monitor. And here's a high level overview so you can get a better understanding of what I'm talking about there. So in the middle, what you see there is two data stores, metrics and logs. And Azure Monitor encompasses a ton of technologies that's all listed on the far right. Anything that the user, business, user, organization may produce is on that far left column. So application logs, infrastructure logs, network logs, operating system logs, those all feed right over into the data side of it where it stores at. And then in terms of the types of data that's available, as you saw in that last slide, there's two sets. There's metrics and there's logs. And a little detail about metrics and logs on the right. If you really want to go further into that, then come join me at DevOps Day Chicago where I talk about the golden signals and things like that. So at the core of it, though, is this thing that's called Log Analytics Workspace. And the best way to think of that is as a NoSQL database, and it can consume all types of activities. So in this images, what you see here is you see some Cosmos DB, you see AKS, you see SQL, you see an app service, storage accounts that are feeding into it, network logs, VMs that are hosted inside Azure, and then VMs outside of it. So that could be VMs on-prem, VMs on Amazon Web Services, GCP, Oracle, Cloud Infrastructure, just anywhere else. Those all could feed into the same log analytics workspace. And I'll show you how that actually works as we go along. Same thing with App Insights. App Insights used to be it's a solo product where you would use it for your application performance monitoring. Now on the back end, on the front end, it is still the same. On the back end, it is now Log Analytics Workspace. And I think that's a really good improvement for them. When it was in its own separate database source, it was free. Now that it's using Log Analytics Workspace, there is a cost associated to it, which we'll go into the cost of how everything breaks out. So let's do our first demo here. And so what we're looking at here is my Azure portal account. Just so we can get straight to it, this is the overview page of Azure Monitor. And as I said, like, if you notice, each one of these things on here, it's like a different compartment. So if we wanted to monitor our performance of our application, we would use App Insights. And App Insights is set up to write to the Log Analytics workspace. And then here you would see like your application monitoring. I actually forgot about setting up my application for this until about 20 minutes ago. So it's actually, there's no failed request or anything like that coming out of it. The only thing that's actually showing from here is my availability of my application, which says 100% right now. And that is being done through health checks. So I'm using the Azure availability ping check to go just check and see if it's available or not. I turned it to the maximum amount of times. 186 in like the last hour, basically, is what's happening. And I actually have some screenshots to show you of the other things that looks like from App Insights. So when you set up your application insights, App Insights can be actually just like any other APM tool like New Relic, App Dynamics, Dynatrace. It ingrains into the application. You're putting in a instrumentation key that's going to be able to identify that pattern. And this is kind of what it looks like, depending on the type of application framework you're working with. And it'll transmit from there, and you'll be able to identify the availability, calls, latency, things like that. And if you notice my health check, that's kind of what we're seeing right now from mine. Over time, though, you can see your latency and availability. So what I'm doing right now with that health check is I'm pinging it from all the Azure data centers around the world. And over time, it'll show where there's latency at between different points of origin. And that would be useful for me for my application. If it's a global application, I could put a load balancer in it, in front of it, or Azure front door or something like that. That'll help distribute that and reduce that latency time. Other parts of it is it allows for you to do flow analysis. So when users actually come to your site to see where they're actually having problems at during those times when they're making their calls. Same thing with retention. It'll actually give you detail about how long it takes for users to, how long users are accessing your website when it leaves like a cookie behind, so that you can collect details like this as well. So it's a full service tool. It's really useful. And like I said, it was free until recently. But if you're still in the free plan, if you've spent one up already, you could possibly be still in the free plan until you need to upgrade it to a paid version. It doesn't say that you need to upgrade to the paid version. It'll say you need to integrate it with Workspace. And I'll talk about the cost of it a little further down. But right now, think of this as still a free resource. So are there any questions so far? All right. I'm going to move right along then. And let's go back up to here. And we're going to talk about looking at some of the alerts that are coming out of it. So Azure Monitor has the ability to do alerting, and you're allowed to create alerts in various different ways. You can send your alerts via text message, email, phone calls, push notifications if you're running the Azure application on your mobile device. And those types of notifications can be sent out via webhooks, logic apps, secure webhooks, anything like that. The ITSM ones, the only one that actually works still is directly integration to ServiceNow. And the ServiceNow notifications from there, once they get passed over to ServiceNow, then you could have your ServiceNow orchestrator do what you want to do with it. You get a nice little page that'll give you a detail of the number of severity for your tickets. I'll show you some of the alerts in a moment and what they look like and how we built them. This is free also, by the way. And then this is what an alert looks like when you're building one. This particular one's looking at an app service plan. It's looking for a high CPU percentage. And then after a certain amount of time, it automatically adjusts it. It's not actually sending out a notification, but this one's doing auto scaling based on the alert and incident. Let's take a closer look at that now. So over in my environment, I'm just going to hop into Azure Alert. And currently I don't have any created, so I'm going to go ahead and create one. So first thing I'll do is I'll create an action group, and we'll just call this test. Decide the type of notification I want. So we can do email notification. And we could put in anybody in this list. We could put names into here. I recommend distribution groups personally, or creating these using infrastructure as code, something like Terraform or an ARM template or Bicep to produce them in a mass quantity. Best way of doing it though is if you could do a distribution list, then you can manage it as part of your organization's distribution list management. So you can put in anything you want for an email. So I'll just put it like richard@richard.com, right? And hit OK. And for an action, we can say what I want that action to be. If I want any additional actions to take place besides just a notification. If I don't want anything, I don't have to put anything. You can tag them. The tags actually don't show up for the action groups. And I didn't put any tags in there, but when we go look at the action groups in here, it shows that there's an action group now. And there's no, oh, there's my tag. Hey, look at that. My new tags now show up. Okay, that's an update, I guess. The tags do show up now. So now that I've created an action group, I can go ahead and create an action rule. And I can select the scope that I want. Then condition. It's loading. And for conditions, you can do a custom query, which can be based around the log analytics workspace data. I'll show you how those look in a moment, but I'm just going to go with the predefined one. And this one, I'll just say, let's look for something around Windows. And we'll click next. I'll select my action group. So the action groups that are called App Insights Smart Detection, these are actually provisioned automatically by App Insights, and these are based on conditions that App Insights have deemed to be appropriate for notification. The two email groups that are already in there by the roles, those are predetermined by Microsoft. So those are the owner and contributor, I believe, are the ones that they select in there by default, or owner and monitor. I think it's owner and monitor. But for my test one, I'm going to do test and details, and I'll say test alert. And then when I go to create, it will now be set up and ready to go. All right. So now I can see that I have 3 rules out there currently. So whenever my ping check fails, and then I have 2 smart ones, and then a third one should be coming shortly. So are there any questions about alerts, how you can use them, how you can scale them? Okay. So another part of the Azure Monitor that I want to cover up front is going to be around the visualization aspect of it. So Azure Monitor has 3 main ways that you can see your data. Those are the live dashboards. So if you log in, you'll see an Azure dashboard. These use an older framework. I think Microsoft's moving away from it because I don't see a lot of contributions to it. This looks really cool, but I don't really see them using it a lot. I see a lot of more time being invested into using the other technologies like Grafana, Power BI dashboards. I just don't know if it's just not the flexibility of this or not. I mean, you can customize these widgets a little, and they kind of do look good, but they're not really that flexible. This is what a workbook looks like. They're a little bit more flexible, and they really are designed for resolving issues. Like they'll help you get to the point and resolve an issue. So there really are workbooks. They're not really meant to be dashboards because there's a lot of like abilities to change between widgets, drop downs, things like that. We'll dive in and I'll show you them up close, and you can see how difficult they could be to be clicking through to be like a dashboard. This, on the other hand, is designed to be a dashboard. And this is a Power BI dashboard, actually, looking at total IT operations of all the servers and for this particular environment. It's using network tracing, so some network watching. It's also got in it some details that are coming from the unique workstations, backup logs, some SQL database details in there too. So it's a nice, good dashboard, very useful. This is the type of thing. It could be a workbook because it has the ability to be a workbook, but you could easily set an auto refresh on this and put this on a dashboard for a TV or something like that. And of course, like we talked about last month, Grafana. Grafana actually has the ability to be used. Sorry. Has the ability to be used for the dashboards. It can be auto set up to auto display, and it can go from there. So you can use it to actually navigate in and out. And I'll go into detail a little bit further to show you some uses of it. So here's some workbooks that I've pre-established. So my favorite workbook I use the most is this one right here. This gives me a good overview of an environment. And I can see the VMs that are running, the sizes of those VMs. I can see any other services that are running on there as well. Network details, I can see public IP addresses, like it just gives me a whole idea what's happening in the entire Azure subscription. This one I couldn't get to work right. So this one here, my databases that I set up for this environment for the demo is actually not writing any activity to this one. But all my databases are actually using Azure SQL. I'm not actually running any physical servers. So that's why that one doesn't report properly. But since I'm using the Azure SQL databases, I can see in here details about CPU usage or utilization, any data or log IOs, any issues like that, wrong running queries or activities that are failing from my logs or anything like that. And then it identifies which ones are set up for auto tuning and how they're performing currently. So again, the workbooks are really useful. You can get in, you can see some details and activities that's happening. You can, like if I needed to know which one of my storage accounts were having most problems or most transactions, I can get in and see them at a high level. When we look at the Azure dashboards, I guess I actually don't have any dashboards because I don't use them. I don't like them. Sorry, I thought I had some dashboards, but I actually don't have any because I never created any because I thought I was like, oh, I probably got some already. So I should have probably checked that. But again, the dashboards aren't too flexible. I can probably make one quickly. So you get a set of widgets on there, and we can just throw some things on here. Let's see, we'll throw like a metric on here or something. I know how we can do this fast. So let's go look at the resource group. And I know that there's a lot of activity happening here. So metrics, and we'll say, show me. Oh, I guess there isn't anything happening there. Let's see. Metrics. So I have a VM running that is not running any kind of security tools on it, and I will show you that why I did that in a moment. But we're going to take some metrics from there and throw them onto their dashboard. All right, so that's 2 there, and so now we can see on my dashboard I have some monitoring of that server there and the activity that's happening across there. I could customize this and add a little bit more to it. Like you can do like markdown on here. So if you wanted to use a dashboard for troubleshooting an application, you could use that where you put all your application metrics on here and your detail about them on here, linked to a widget or something like that. Let's see. Trying to think what else. There's some times on here if you need to know like time zones or something. And everything can be moved around and adjusted depending on the size that you want to see it on. And the third option is actually using log analytics. I'm sorry, using Grafana. And this one here particularly actually sends data from this server. It dumps it into log analytic workspace. And from there, I can actually see the performance that's happening on that server. I took all the different metrics and put them into a single dashboard. Inside there, there's no Docker running on this server or anything like that. So there's just a bunch of activity that's happening on the server. On the Grafana website, there is a huge section dedicated to Azure dashboards. And you can access a ton of different ones. Grafana is free, as we talked about last month. If you wanted to know more about that and you missed last month's, you can go back and check out the video where we talk about it. That's available on our YouTube channel. Can you hear me? Give me a thumbs up.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Sorry, Khan, I'm not really sure why you can't hear me. Okay, okay, perfect. All right, so next let's look at Network Watcher. And Network Watcher is actually, it's an independent component that is part of the Azure monitoring set. It writes to Azure Monitor, but I'm sorry, to the Log Analytic workspace, but a majority of it is still leaning on using storage accounts on the back end. And that's mainly because one of the things that you can do with Network Watcher is doing sending like detailed tracing of what's happening on a machine. And that can write straight to a storage account. And you can set your retention time on there. And you can set the retention time on there, and any kind of traffic analysis that you want to go into further detail about. This actually sets the wrong one, so we're going to see what happens with that. But you can set your detail as to where the traffic analysis goes. The deep detail ones will write to a storage account. And then the intermittent updates, so the metrics, tracing, those things are going to actually write to a log analytics workspace. The logs themselves will actually still write to a storage account. I think that will probably change in the future. Now that they're starting to do more, them being Microsoft starting to do more around the log analytic workspace, and it has the ability to do that. So I would see that change in the future. So in terms of cost, you're actually going to get charged on this one quite a bit more. Storage accounts are based on the way that the storage account's designed. So if it's in hot, cold, or cool phase, you get charged for that. And then you're getting charged on also the amount of logs you're writing to it. So storage capacity, those are like fractions of a penny. But if you're writing a significant amount of logs to there over a long period of time, then yes, you could see a potentially a actual dollar amount, like over $1 cost. If you send 24 gigabytes of data to a storage account that is in code, for logging, you will spend $6 a month. Depending on what you're paying Microsoft for your service agreement, but if you don't have an agreement, it's just a pay-as-you-go account, it's not going to be that much, but you could see a high volume if you're sending like 500 servers, logs for 500 servers to it. And that's where the storage account, using Log Analytics Workspace for analysis will come into play. So the other features of the Network Watcher is it gives you the ability to actually go in and trace what's happening traffic-wise from a machine. You can do deep detail packet hops, look at your rules that you're creating. Like I said, packet capturing, which was what we're doing right now on one of the machines. So it's really meant for your network performance analysis. You do get some cool things like over time where you can see your network layout. Unfortunately, I have not been running this that long. I just made that change for it, but it would give me a network layout analysis of it. I have a screenshot of, here we go. So when I was playing with it earlier, it was giving me some layouts of how my network's laid out, what VMs are connected to what network cards, and what security gateway rules they're following, what subnets they're connected to. And I don't have these subnets peered because this is two different machines here. One's actually I'll be showing to you around a AKS cluster and a static website. The other one is two machines, one not running any firewall or software or virus protection, and one that is, and you can see the different amounts of traffic that's happening against it. So I don't have these networks peered at all right now. And that image is actually laid out here in the topology monitoring, which should work eventually. Oh, there we go. And so at the top level, like you can see my like little simple network I got going on here. I can break it down from there and just break it out by VNet. So if I needed to be able to provide this to my organization, I could show all the machines on here and this entire network, everything like that, and then show the other VNet and how that's broken out separately. So we've talked about Azure Monitor's App Insights technologies. We've looked at these, and next thing is the Azure Advisor. So Azure Advisor is a service that's provided under the Azure Monitor umbrella. And actually, you know, my subscription is pretty clean. There's not going to be any recommendations in here. Oh, look at that. I have a recommendation. So the recommendations from Azure Advisor is because I'm running some virtual machines, and it's recommending that I enable backups for these machines, as well as multiple replications of my machines. Reason why I don't have this set up is because this is a quick demo environment. So I will destroy this environment later tonight. And those machines in there, I don't really care about. But other ones you will see could look like this. Opportunities for savings. It'll identify opportunities of savings for you. So say, for example, if you're running 40 servers in your environment consistently, it may recommend that you switch to a prepay for your servers for a savings. Reliability ones, those are ones designed around keeping your services up and running efficiently. Any kind of performance tuning it'll recommend. Same thing with security. So security mainly will focus around any kind of security issues, like you may have unsecured ports or things like that. And actually that's what I was expecting, because I have a ton of ports open that should not be open right now in one of my networks. So I just don't think it's detected them yet. And the way that these work right here is this is it. I don't actually know when it runs or like a set time, but I do know that it is a 24-hour time period between the time that a resource is created and a resource is identified in here. So some of my resources I spent up yesterday, some of them I spent up today. Some of them I want to get screenshots early on. So now I want to take the time to talk a little bit further about Azure Monitor's cost. And the way that you can see that is when you go look at your log analytics workspace. And since everything's based around log analytics, the cost is broken out by the amount of data being consumed and the length of that data's retention. The longer you retain data, of course, the more you're going to be paying for it. So the way that the Microsoft works on a lot of their services is the cost of retention. So I'm going to refresh this because that shouldn't take that long to open up. And this is the wrong environment, so I'm going to go and change it. This one. And the current subscription license I'm on is the per gigabyte plan. I know it says 2018. That was the one that was available. And over the last 24 hours, I've consumed a little bit under 1/4 gigabyte. I get a breakdown of where my data is coming from. I can see in here, it says if there's a data cap or not, and my retention plans, and then any inactive agents that are missing heartbeats or things like that. So there is an estimate and cost analysis section here. And this really comes down to your agreement with Microsoft, in my opinion. Like, you can negotiate these things on the cost of your storage. You can adjust your daily intake of it. This was a feature added a couple years ago. And data retention, you can go from 30 days, and if you're required by any kind of regulations or compliance, you can go all the way out to 730 days which is like 7 years-ish. I don't know. Two years. So 2 years. And I'm going to say no on that. And then if you're committing to it, you can prepay for your data usage. Like if you know you have logs coming in consistently, it's going to be like 100 gigabytes a day. You could actually go with this option and get a discount over time. So right now I'm paying $2.67 per gigabyte. You could actually get that down to $1.96. So, I mean, there's ways to get the cost down, but again, it is the way that they make their money on this particular product. So this same service here actually ties into Sentinel. Sentinel is a Microsoft SIM product, and we can talk about that in the future. I'm not ready to talk about that one yet because that's like a whole day topic right there. But you can do a lot of things with it. In addition to seeing your costs and being able to control your costs on here, if you set your retention or daily capacity at a lower level, that'll help you keep it under. Regularly monitoring the type of activity that are coming into your logs, using the workbooks and workspace summaries that'll help you figure out what's going on with it. So I know I have a ton of logs coming in from certain VMs. Like you could decrease those activities and say only send in error or warning messages instead of sending in all of them. I wanted to generate some data, so I turned it to send everything in to it. And same thing with like inbound, outbound traffic. This one here is actually I'm doing port scans and performance logs, and just like I just want to generate some activity so we can see what's happening here. You could tune these things down, and I have it doing increments of like every 5 minutes. You could have it do increments of like once an hour. You can use some of these tools for additional queries here to see what's generating specific detail. So we know in really, it's been really 24 hours. So in the last 24 hours, we can go down further and see. No activity for the last hour. That's weird. So last 4 hours, it says that it's generated 40 megabytes of activities on this one machine here. I also believe that there's something happening now because these two machines are set up at the same time. One's got antivirus protection on it and ports secured. This one does not, and it's starting to creep up. So it could be compromised. Oh, also they haven't been patched. This one has not been patched either since last year. I'm using an image from last year. So we'll see what happens with it. And just like everything else now on the Azure Monitor side, they're all starting to tie in together on this single dashboard here. This shows you where your locations of all your log analytics workspaces are. I do have 2 workspaces. I think I have one in North Central. Nope, East and East 2. So unfortunately, they're both over here, but you can see a nice little map for it. They're starting to put together really nice workbooks predefined for you. This is a workbook right here. And this is why I believe that they're spending less time on the Azure dashboards, because these workbooks are starting to really take shape. Here's a really good one for a VM. And this is looking at the map. This is using the map feature. This is actually writing this log activity to the log analytics workspace, but we can see port activities, what's going on with it, where the traffic is coming from, who's connecting to it. It shows that it has 28 clients, which is expected for this machine right now. and you can see what's going on, like in terms of clients who are connecting to it and everything like that. Again, this is all expected because this is the Azure log analytics, sorry, the app insights logging in to see or if the workstation's up or down in terms of the website that's running on this machine right now. So it's checking it constantly. I believe all the activity should be coming over port 80 port. Let's go back one slide. And this is the other version of the workbooks, the older ones, what they used to look like. So your dashboards, your health checks, percentiles, things like that, you get all that in here. Sizes of the hard drives, like everything you would need in terms of your infra for that machine. So containers was recently moved into this as well. I want to say maybe like January, they brought containers in as well, and you get the same kind of reports and details with your containers. We can see tags that I've put on my nodes, number of nodes that are running, any states. This has got no activity, so of course it's going to spin down to one node. Any kind of controllers, the status of them, ones that are questionable, not questionable, containers that are actively running right now on my machines. I spent this up, like I said, I spent this up before we began today, so that's why I said uptime's an hour. And same thing from there. Any questions about Kubernetes monitoring? Okay. So you can also do your alerts around these same things as well. So if I wanted to keep an eye on the performance here, if it goes over a certain peak, I can actually put my monitoring on here then, and it will send out alerts and notifications as well. We've talked about networks already. And the SQL one, I don't have anything running from the SQL one, so I can't really show you anything. But I do have.
Hey, Richard, this is
Yes,
Khan.
Sir.
Sorry to stop you in the middle. Could you go to network? One piece I was interested is like, like when you configure some ports and, during the setup time and you enable, monitoring and you want to monitor the traffic and particularly like the network packets that are reaching and that are not reaching in order to debug the, the networking issues, firewall issues.
Yeah, actually, yeah. So first things you're going to want to do is you're going to start up with, if you know the network interface card for it, that is quite helpful. So I know, like, I have this one right here. It has a lot of activity running over it. Make sure you have your diagnostic settings turned on. So here I actually have it set to monitor all. And since I do have that set to monitor all, I can go straight to my log analytics workspace. When I go into my log analytics workspace, I'm going to go to, let's see, it should be not workbooks. I want my raw logs. And where is it? There it is. Sorry. So it's logs, and skip right past this right here. That'll give you an overview, but this will give you a list of predefined queries. We're going to go take a quick look and see if my activities show up on here. And you should be able to use these queries here to actually narrow down what's happening. So this one is, let's just go find one for firewall detail. Oh, there's no firewall setup. I didn't set up any firewalls for this demo. I use a like a prepaid account. sorry, I'm using my MSDN subscription, which gives me $250 a month. If I would have put a firewall on here, the firewall would have consumed my budget within like an hour. So I didn't put a firewall on here, but you would be able to see one of your queries in here. That will give you the detail that you're going to be looking for. I'm pretty sure it will be this one because this one will tell you what's happening. Yeah, but I don't have anything running. I do have some ping checks running, so I should be able to see the ping checks coming from the machine and traffic.
Thank you.
So let's see. No, that doesn't look right. No. Maybe it's actually going to be under workstation. And then we go to, yeah, there we go, network traffic. That makes more sense. So you were saying if it was a workstation, see, I don't know why wire data is not reporting anything. If it was a workstation or a VM and you were trying to see if the traffic could get through.
Yeah.
Because that would be my web address. So through IS logs, not reporting, not patched. Let's see, traffic by clients. But the one machine that I do have running is actually a Linux machine. So the Linux logs would be different. And I actually am capturing it via the network card.
Or you may have something, that is working and, suddenly somebody changed a network rule and, firewall rule and the application is not working and you have to trace it, like which one is, having a timeout or something.
Yeah. Let's all right, so it's attached to this machine. And so you should be able to trace it by the name. So I know my name, and now let's go back over to Azure Monitor. So I know I should be, let me just make sure there's something coming out of this one. Because then that would be why, okay, good, there's something coming out of it. And we'll go back to the log analytics workspace. And we'll go back into the logs again.
Maybe Azure firewall log data.
Well, this is going to be looking at a table that would be created around firewall. So that wouldn't be that one. Since I don't have a firewall set up, that's why I won't show up there. And I'm wondering if that's the reason why we're not seeing things, because I don't actually have a firewall set up. I just had the machine connected to the internet and I have a DNS name in front of it. but we should be able to search it another way. There we go. Okay, so it's going to be in this table. I've ran into this before. So that actually, while we're looking at this, I'll explain a little bit more about what we're looking at here. So Azure actually has their own language, and I should say Microsoft, not Azure. Microsoft created their own language called Custo Query Language. So KQL. And it's very similar to, well, name-wise, it's actually the same as Kibana query language, which can be confusing, I guess. But it's similar to SQL, kinda. And the idea of it is it allows for you to create more complex queries around it. I'm looking up now the machine name that we're using. And I want to grab from there the actual resource name. And then once I grab that resource name, I can then go look for that resource and figure out what we're doing with it. So, gosh, all of a sudden now I forgot where to find my resource ID. Man, oh man, that's bad. Properties. Oh, all right. There we go. All right, so and it uses the IntelliSense. So if you notice, like on the Kusto queries, I can type in like where, and I'm looking for the resource ID, and I'm seeing it contains what we're looking for in terms of our machine there. And it doesn't find anything, which is, I don't know why. All right, so let's delete that. Let's do. There is enough activity that's happening on this server that it should be able to. Oh, I see. So the resource ID I provided was for the actual machine. The resource ID I needed to provide was for the security gateway. So the reason why we're not seeing activity is because this machine is attached to this subnet, which has a security gateway in front of it. So the traffic is actually logged against that. So when I go in here, I'll need to go look for my security group. That is for my meow cat thing. So let me make sure I did turn on. Did I turn on flow for this one? Yes. Awesome. Container. Wait, what was that last one? Okay, apparently it's already rolled over. And so now we have what I did turn on for that one earlier, by the way, was the network flow. So to answer your question, we have the actual raw data here to go through and see the traffic now of every request that's come to that machine, inbound or outbound. So if it's having activity issues getting out, we can actually see that detail. I am dumping it. Sorry.
So I thought it's stored in the workbook rather than the storage account.
Yeah, so I sent it to two places. And I sent it to the storage account and to the workbook. In the workbook, it should be under logs and where we were at. When we go back here again, and we look under, let's see. Is it this one? Nope, we're gonna go with this one. Run that one. Okay, cool. Yeah. All right, so when we looked here, it actually is doing that diagnostic log table here. So that same one. And when I was looking at it before, I was looking by that machine name. I should have been looking by that security gateway. Oh, that's a different gateway now. Oh, get it back there again. So here we go. So when we look by the gateway, let me do the where. And we drill it down to there, we can actually see, and you could, of course, drill this down further to the type of activity you're looking for. Inbound, outbound, what's being blocked is what type you're going to be looking for. The MAC address for that particular device. So since I only have one running on there, it's only going to be that one. And you can see where the traffic is coming from or going to. And the last column over here, these ones over here are going to give you an error code usually. You're going to see an error code over here. Oh, ditto. That's the same field. But you would see an error code over here in terms of what the error code is. That's essentially the same thing I was just showing you in this log file. This is the raw log file though, so you could use this to ingest it with something else.
Okay, I think that's good information that I've seen.
So we've talked about the cost. We've talked about how, oh, I didn't mention health services yet. Okay. So health services is another component that's kind of loosely affiliated with with the Azure Monitor. It is a free service, and what you do is it will give you the status of the Azure services, any planned outages or anything like that. That are causing or that are occurring. You can go ahead and set up alerts around these things. So if there are a set of services that your company uses, you can set up an alert notification to it and restrict it to your resource group. So like we made our group earlier to test and it's Richard. We could set that up and have notifications go to there when there's a service issue or outage. I usually do two. I recommend, if you're doing it, do two different groups, one for advisories and planned maintenance windows, and then one for service issues. The service issues, of course, are going to be, I wouldn't do every Azure service like you see here. I would restrict it down to the services that you're going to use in the regions that you operate in. Also global too. Global ones would be things like Azure AD, that would be global. Other ones would be like traffic traffic manager. That's a global one. I don't remember what else is global as well. That would actually fall under Key Vault. No, Key Vault are regional based.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Key Vaults are regional based. Usually it would be the ones that are like the back end for anything that's like CDN would be global. So like the actual back end of it. Oh, last one let's look at is going to be AKS. And I'm not really sure what we're going to see, considering, like I said, I spent the AKS cluster a little over an hour and a half ago, but we could go through and look at it. And then if I don't think it's enough, I'll show you some of my pre-baked screenshots. So we'll do the AKS insights. And I know we started looking at this earlier. We talked about a little bit about the monitoring from it in terms of the cluster, node performance, and up down on them. This can easily be a dashboard. The workbooks are pre-baked for you. You can make your own on top of them if you want to, but I feel like this is a good representation of what's happening with it. You can turn it on so it can refresh every 5 seconds or however often you want it to refresh. Same thing with in terms of deployments. You can actually go look at a separate page that's all based around deployments. I feel like this may be the feature that Microsoft, the team that's focused around AKS, they've really spent a lot of time of putting together good dashboards that are useful so that you don't have to. There's a ton of options, data usage ones. I know I spent mine up recently, so there's not a lot of good data in here. Here we go. I can see a little bit of activity, what's happening there already in terms of size. Nothing around namespace. I don't think there should be much logging happening yet because I haven't ran anything against it. Yeah. So you get a little idea of what's going on there. Same thing with the network performance around it. We can see the activities that's happening from each one of the nodes. If there's anything, any errors or anything like that, you can see from there and then be able to drill down from there into it further. Packets and traffic that's happening across it. And again, like, you know, if there's anything I wanted to see further, I could drill down from here. I just click this and it takes me right to the Kusto query for it, and we can drill down in there and begin the troubleshoot. I'm gonna hop back and then let's look at disk capacity. And this will give me any kind of alerts, issues, looking at all my drives. If I wanted to pin this to my dashboard, I could, and send this to my dashboard that we were making earlier. If I hit pin on it, and then now hop back over to that dashboard, there it is right there. I don't think I spent enough time talking about workstations, virtual machines. So let's go look at that again. And one of the things you could do with your virtual machines is you get advisories as to recommendations in terms of security or compliance around them. When you're using the Azure Monitor tool for them, and you click on virtual machines, you get a nice layout of which ones are connected to workspaces, which ones are not. You can see which ones are being monitored, which ones are not, and if there's one that's not being monitored and you want it to be monitored, it's easy to just you click that button there that says enable. And this only works if it's hosted on Azure, by the way. You determine where you want to send that data to. I'm going to send it to an existing workspace. It begins deploying it. And we'll come back to that. Within 15 minutes, it's going to be up and running on here. If I wanted to see further detail about my machines and how they're performing, I just go click on this. And this will give me a breakout of all my machines. Unfortunately, it's not going to be that workspace. It's going to be this one. And this is a breakout of all my machines that are running. It's looking at the machines are running across all the environments. This machine, of course, you can tell the ones that are running in Azure are being monitored. This one here that says non-Azure virtual machine, this is actually being run on AWS, and it's reporting straight back to it as well. This is I didn't give it a fancy name, so this is just a Windows server. 2019 server or 2016 server. I can't remember what I spent up, but it's just running and it has the agent running on top of it. The agents are actually triggered from the Log Analytics workspace. So Log Analytics workspace, these are the keys for it. I will destroy this anyway at the end of the night, so I don't really care about the keys being seen, but you download the agents here and you can install them on your servers on-prem using like PowerShell or Python or wherever you want to do it. You can do the same thing with your Linux machines as well. And then you will apply the keys to it as you feel appropriate. Same thing with your machines that are hosted in other clouds. You would do that same thing as well. On the machines that are actually created on Azure, if the machine didn't have it installed, just how I clicked that button earlier and it showed us, it will give you that ability to do that. Or if you are building a new machine, you can actually configure it from the beginning to go ahead and use that size or anything like that. And now that that machine's been successfully deployed, it's been onboarded. Let's go take a look and see what we're seeing in there. So I should be able to go back to Log Analytics workspace. I should be able to go to my logs again, and I should be able to click on virtual machines and say, show me my available machines. And it's still not seeing the new ones yet. So let's say eight. It's now telling me which ones are not reporting. Let's see. I want to see the ones that are being utilized. So that one that we just spent, that we just gave it access to Log Analytics workspace, that one's now reporting in here. So we're now starting to see that one. And when it begins to report on it, it begins to look at everything around that machine. Same thing on Linux. It will give you details about any security updates that need to be applied. I don't know why that did not work. On Windows, it will give you what is going on here. So it should be able to give you that same detail as well. I think they broke their pre-baked queries. So it actually uses so these queries over here are predefined by Microsoft. It looks like the queries are actually running from they're actually like configured inside like a GitHub account. So I was just hopping over to go see one of the queries. So a little off-screen magic real quick. Let me go take a look and see what's happening. So are there any questions though in the last 15 minutes while I go try to figure out why that's not working? Okay. Okay, so yeah, it looks like what happened was someone made a change to it. And that's why you keep your own sets of queries. So one of the things I did not mention or go into detail about was query packs. And over time, what you'll do is you'll start building your own queries and you'll start storing them here in query packs. Those queries are queries that you can utilize across your entire enterprise. I actually don't have any as a subscription, but you may want to do some of those or keep them inside your own like repo. I'm not saying that you can't trust everything that comes out there, but sometimes some queries get updated the wrong way and things stop working. So that one query there that should have given us the performance before, was not working because it was looking. It's supposed to give us the updates for our machines and which ones are missing outdated outdated service packs and patches, but it did not. So it failed. It was looking at Linux servers, but it should have been Windows servers. So I should have actually probably made my own version of that query and kept it to the side so that my demo would work. Yeah, see, that's not right. Yeah. I knew it was, if you can tell, when it says that, it knows the table's not there for it. I'm running on this, in this environment. This server is a 2019 one. I think I have a couple servers that are 2012, and I had not patched them. So I wanted them to show up in there for our demo today, but they did not show up. Yeah, so this one should have shown up with lots of red flags because it is definitely under attack right now. This one should have shown up as missing the patch from last month. That one's not on there at all. This one is just a Windows 2010 machine. This one here is a Linux machine, so that should have shown up too for the Linux list. And this one was patched last night, so this one should have been fine. But they didn't show up in there in that list. So we have 10 minutes left. Are there any questions? All right. So I covered a lot tonight. Again, if you have anything cool you want to show, talk about, ask questions about, learn more about, let me know. We are looking for more speakers. I believe next month we may have a speaker talking more about utilizing InfluxDB on the back end for your storage solutions and using some of the open source tools from InfluxDB that they provide. And the month after that will be the month of July. I hope that we can do an in-person event somewhere downtown. I possibly may have a sponsor for that one, who will pay for pizza, drinks, things like that, and a location for us for the evening. And then in terms of a presenter, I don't have a presenter yet, so we can figure out a topic by then and a presenter by then. That's all, I guess. So I guess I'll stop recording now. And if anyone, oh, I see a hand up. I'm sorry. Do you have a question?
Yeah, I had a question. I'm kind of new to the whole monitoring arena. Is this monitor, is this comparable to New Relic?
Yes. They have their trade-offs. And so New Relic offers a wide range of services, similar to Azure's monitoring tools. The trade-off is like some of the things you can do with the New Relic one. In terms of I feel like if I needed to figure out which machine had which we'll say the log4j or something like that log4j issue. If I need to figure out which machine was still running like log4j, I could probably analyze them faster using New Relic than I could using Azure Monitor.
Well, why is that?
I feel like their technology is a little bit better. They're using the open telemetry software. They're part of the open telemetry group. So I feel like it's a little bit better when it comes to that kind of querying. I I think querying my logs are a little less complex in New Relic than it is in Azure. And that may just be my learning curve. But I think a person if you're using Kuso querying every day, you could get it to work right for you. In terms of like an application performance monitoring, and maybe we should get someone from New Relic to come talk about New Relic, because it seems like there's a lot of questions there. But in terms of monitoring with it, you can, I don't have anything running on mine, but you could get a little bit more detailed into it. On the infrastructure side, I feel like they do a really good job of just observing everything just straight through. If I was to put if someone said you pick one and you can only have one for the rest of your life, I probably would stick with, I probably would go with the one that I know will keep growing and hasn't plateaued yet. I still think Azure Monitor is early in their lifespan. If we looked at it 6 months ago, here's a good example. I showed you an image at the beginning here. This is what Microsoft refers, this is their image and their diagram of Azure Monitor. They describe this and everywhere, every documentation describes this. Putting this together today, I noticed that they had changed out their image already. Again, for like the 5th time in the course of like the last year. So when you go look at what is Azure Monitor, I think this is a better representation now. So these are more modern, and now we're not talking just about metrics and logs. We're also talking about tracing and traces now. And I give you a better representation of how it ties everything together. I have some beliefs about it. This Grafana thing here, long term, of why that's there. But if you notice, they're now starting to show like more options for visualizing your data. Grafana is not the only option you can use because it's open. Because it's an open API for that. So if you want to feed your data from Log Analytics over to New Relic and dashboard it in New Relic, you can. But they chose to put Grafana there. So I think a lot of this, I have some predictions about where this is going to go in the future.
That is interesting.
That is not a forward statement, and I'm not part of the Azure Monitor advisory council, so it's just my thoughts on it. This is not something that's not me representing my company talking about knowledge that I know, but just looking at what I see happening here. And the recent announcement about Azure Monitor plus Grafana, that announcement that came out a few weeks ago on the 28th, I think this is now Microsoft documentation, and it's telling you about how to use Grafana directly into it. The amount of workbooks that they've put out there is significant. I think this is a more mature product. Grafana is a more mature product than what Microsoft has. And again, it's open source. You can now run this directly inside your Azure environment. So you don't even have to go pay Grafana anymore. Like we learned about last month when we talked about this, Grafana had to be hosted on Grafana.
Mm-hmm.
And now you can run that inside your Azure environment right next to your cluster. So I don't know. Any other questions? All right. Well, this was fun. Look forward to talking to everybody next month. Have a great weekend and evening and month and rest of your day. Bye, everybody.
Hey, thank you, Richard. You have a nice night now.
You too.